And you are live on the AM show on JoyNews across Ghana's 16 regions. And this AM show is sponsored by Waylead Properties. Now, are you thinking of a rewarding investment you can engage in? Then Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such investment. Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with several developments to its credit here in Accra. Their newest development, Willow Lane, is a place where elegance meets tranquility in the heart of Accra. You want to invest there because we provide quality housing at affordable cost and also with flexible payment options. And at Waylead Properties, we provide you 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make your stay a memorable one. Give us a call now on these numbers: 0240-111-119 or 0504-499-999. Also, you can visit our website at www.waylead.org for more information.
Now, water storage is crucial to all of us. And my question, though, if we're talking water tanks, what do you have? Do you know the secret to real water storage? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank. That's right. The tortoise tank, Syntex tank, is the champion of water tanks. It is strong, it is durable, and built to handle our Ghanaian weather conditions. So, if you don't see that tortoise on your tank if you go outside, well, then it means you have to upgrade. Join the Syntex tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. Call 0244-335-168 to buy now or find one of our 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, strong, tough. Getting to our guests now, and Professor Isaac Boedi is Dean of Accounting and Finance at the UPSA. He joins the conversation. We also have the General Secretary of the CPP, Kwame Nkrumah. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Quick thoughts? I'm intentionally leaving you to decide who will go first. Maybe I will give guidance. Today I've left you. Whoever goes first goes first.
I'll go first. And this is a humble appeal to my learned senior at the bar, the Honorable Special Prosecutor.
Okay.
That he's doing a very good job in many ways so far. And I would plead with him not to get distracted. There have been some recent arrests of journalists and other things which give grave cause for concern. I think he's doing a good job, but I think he shouldn't get distracted. Because I have followed the discourse, and in my humble opinion, whatever the journalist said may not fall within the remit of the Special Prosecutor. And at the same time, too, I would call on the President of the GJA that we also want to hear his voice on these arrests, because the fourth estate of the realm has been very, very important in bringing the country's democracy to this stage. And if we have people being silenced left, right, center, it's not going to be a good thing for our democracy. So that is my appeal to the OSP this morning.
All right. Prof?
Well, I think since last week, series of allegations, we have not.
You say allegations?
I mean, containers missing from the port for some time now. I don't know what we've got into with those cases, but I'm sure we have security operatives. We have OSP also playing a role in some of these arrests. We can also channel resources. We are not saying that when people fall foul, we should not go after them. We should. But it should be done in a manner that we all will appreciate. That's what we want to now talk about. We've also heard something on tariffs, 10% tariffs for some time. I think 2 days ago.
From the US.
From the US. It's a running story. I'm sure as a nation we can have some bilateral agreement or discussions with the US. It's one thing telling the whole world I'm giving you 10% tariffs and you don't do anything and you sit, allow that thing to be implemented. Other countries had about 10, 30 or 50%. We had 10%. And Lesotho and the rest, they've initiated some moves of negotiating with the US to consider the imposition of that tariffs. So we can do the same as a country.
I thought you were going to say we should implement counter tariffs. I mean, some would say, you see, sometimes I think we belittle ourselves. US aid is gone. Is Ghana not working? It's not to say that we don't need it. But you see, sometimes when certain things are taken away, you then realize, what's the saying? I've forgotten the exact saying. When it comes to mind, I'll tell you. But in very dire circumstances, that's where you unearth the very best in you, because you have to survive before you can thrive. So how you will get that...
Necessity is the mother of invention.
That's one of what I'm looking for. So, I mean, I think it's Namibia that in recent times, is it Namibia or Botswana, that also imposed, a visa requirement on the US and I think the US and some other countries, because they've been coming there without needing visas. But when these people are going to these countries, so stringent and all of that, I think it's high time we really valued ourselves. If you don't value me, and respectfully, this is a president who some time back referred to African countries as S-hole countries. Self-respect, dignity requires that. If you think, okay, you are imposing a 10% tariff on us, true, we import more than we export. But are there mechanisms we can look at to ensure that we are not just taking this sitting, that kind of timorous, soul logic.
Exactly.
How do we also stand up and say, okay, if you're doing this, fine, we'd like to negotiate. If not, we too, on this level, we feel we can do this. Mexico is responding with similar tariffs. Canada has had some sort of boycott of American products. The Chinese will definitely have more responses, the others. So it can't be that Big Brother USA is always, especially under a Trump-like figure, we can do anything. No, you can't.
Exactly.
It's a global world, and no country is an island. You will have consequences over time. Mark my words, over time. From Europe biting back at the US because of this tariff situation to other countries, the US will be the ultimate loser in all of this. Watch it.
And even three things have happened recently. I heard on the news that the Honorable Finance Minister, Dr. Kwakye Ofosu, has instructed that certain commodities or items should only be sourced locally, and there will be no importation of those items, which is a good sign. And yesterday, I was following a truck full of live birds, and I hear one of the areas that will be impacted by the 10% tariff is the import of poultry products. And seeing these live birds yesterday gave me hope that these are some of the things that will revamp our local poultry industry. And as you said, America in the end will be the loser, because now grocery prices are going up. So
prices of eggs.
So we should grab this chance, follow the finance minister's lead, and let's look internally. Let's support our local industries, and I think we'll do well there.
In terms of solution to this tariff issue, we have numerous of them, and I only suggested one of sitting down the U.S. and negotiate. There are so many ways we can go around this. We can diversify our exports, deal with more African countries. AFTA is there. And what are we doing with this regional cooperation that we have? We can still diversify our where we send our goods to. And then, what can we also do?
And that is part of our problem, right? We've not diversified enough. And so but again, while, there may be issues with even the Russians and how they've dealt with the Ukraine situation, I'm not in support of the invasion or anything of the sort, though I believe the Russians also have their own case. That's up to them. But when all these bans came, they found a way of circumventing a lot of them, dealing with China instead. If it comes to chips, okay, so you're not selling chips to me. I deal with these other countries. I'm dealing with Hungary and the rest. There's always a way out. And let me just add, while the impact I speak of may not necessarily be in the immediate term, the US's soft power, already, China has such a big footprint in Africa now that the US and Europe are now, again, trying to consolidate. Look at France and what has happened in the Sahel, right? Yeah. So the US has also fallen victim. That is why now they are trying to claw back on rare earths in certain parts of the world, including here in Africa, having a stake. Because China has, the horse has bolted. Yeah. So you are losing soft power. And you may say that, oh, in the immediate term, you will not feel the pinch. Some of these things that you actually end up feeling in the medium to long term will have much more impact on you, because then there's precious little you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. Most of the things that you've said. I think I'm more concerned about small businesses. The big businesses or the importations we do on large scale, national level, they have some shock absorbers. Yeah. But small and medium enterprises like women who produce hair for the diasporan communities, even the American. Don't forget, America is a large market. You cannot say we're completely going to do without them or do away with them. So I just hope that these small businesses are able to innovate, like you say, or diversify, so that they are not caught in the middle of these two elephants fighting.
That's also where our leaders, the finance ministry and others will come in to sort of create mechanisms, whether it's levies, taxes, whether it's also creating that environment. Yeah. If you stabilize the CD alone, the impact of that, because then whatever they have to do, they may not be forking out X number of CDs to get $1 to do. So there are mechanisms that can be put in place to help such people as well.
And even AGOA is up for renegotiation this September. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of small businesses are involved in it. So a case could be made for these small businesses, especially as I heard on air today that a lot of small businesses locally make profits of less than 10,000 Ghana cedis a year. And I think that's woefully adequate. Yeah. So those who are into exports have to be given the necessary attention so that AGOA can be renegotiated for their benefit.
Well, on that note, let's get into the newspapers. I have the Ghanaian Times. The first important piece of information here is the new cover price. So it says your esteemed newspaper, the Ghanaian Publisher, will be sold at 5 Ghana cedis from Monday, 7th April 2025 due to hike in production costs. So take note. And I'm unsure how much it sells for right now, but 5 CD, okay. It's 3 CDs, so 3 CDs to 5 CDs, okay. So on the front page, the Ghanaian Publisher, government owes Zoom Lion 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. Minister hails company. Kwakye Ofosu lied. No agency has invited me. Reverend Ntim Fordjour is saying. Ghana Medical Association mad at Mahama over suspension of waiver on vehicles. Speaker approves arrest of 2 MPs for an undisclosed matter. I'm particularly interested in that. And bushmeat traders and hunters form association. It's about time. Any of you enjoy bushmeat?
Well, yes.
Yeah? Yes, I think it's a delicacy.
It's only when I travel beyond Accra.
It's true.
We travel beyond Accra.
Yeah.
Outside Accra.
Right, so let's get into the stories. Let me start with the Ghana Medical Association, because they're saying they are unhappy because they are preparing a critical emergency meeting to decide on their next course of action following the suspension of the vehicle importation duty waiver for public sector doctors and dentists. And moving on, the Electoral Commission is assuring workers that they're working around the clock to pay them. These are people who they recruited to assist during elections. They were supposed to be paid 600 CDs. And up till now, the Electoral Commission has not been able to mobilize the funds to pay them. However, they send a statement and they're assuring them. It says that all temporary staff, Electoral Commission, and we assure you that we are working around the clock to secure funds from the Ministry of Finance. And that circular was dated March 7th. I don't know what the latest update is yet, but these people need to be paid. And government owes Zoom
This
Lion.
happens quite a lot.
Yeah.
Practically every electoral cycle. There are people, I think even after the district assembly election, if I'm not mistaken, and that was just what, how many years was it 2 years or less to the main elections in 20? Practically every time we have this thing where, and it takes such a while.
Imagine fighting the Electoral Commission as an individual, you're fighting for 600 CDs, Anyway. It's bizarre. But the government, You
realize it's a smaller amount that we find it difficult to pay. We pay the big sums of money. Yeah. The small ones, difficult to get from.
What are you?
Yeah, but sometimes...
I'm saying the small one payment should be very easy to pay. but the big ones are paid.
It is how
The big ones like the DDEP.
Oh, that will be too huge. But other contracts.
No, I mean,
Done by
it's payments.
some,
There are all
other
big
contract
payments
done by
going
some other.
I dare say that sometimes, historically, sometimes it is easier to pay the bigger sums to such contractors and others because, I mean, not say Oga getting.
Well, we can say this on.
Okay, let me continue with the stories in the Ghanaian publisher, and I'll come to you, gentlemen. Speaker approves arrest of 2 MPs. So Parliament has agreed in principle to a request by the NIB to invite 2 members of Parliament, Mustafa Yusuf and Kwame Asario, being A+, of Gumua Central Constituency, for a preliminary interaction over undisclosed matters. And it's all that it says over here. And I'll stop here. Kwakye Ofosu lied. No agency has invited me, Reverend Ntim Fordjour. And this is on the case of him blowing the whistle that some aircraft have entered the country, possibly carrying drugs and so on and so forth. And the president directing that he assist the security agencies with investigation. We saw a video where Phyllis Kwakye Ofosu was saying that he was invited and he didn't show up. And so Reverend Ntim Fordjour took to his Twitter account to explain that this is not like the truth, because he hasn't been invited. And let's stop there for a while. Gentlemen, where do you want to start from? These are some stories here. Government owing Zoom Lion 1.2 billion Ghana cedi. Oh, is that what you meant by the big ones and the small ones? Right. Okay, I get you now. Let's start from there.
Yeah, government owes Zoom Lion 1.2 billion.
For what they did for 2 years, a little over 2 years.
Over 2 years. Yes. So meaning that this administration needs to take care of. We are told that when you inherit administration, you take care of assets and take care of liabilities as well. But I don't know the contract, the total sum, how much have been paid already. But such news sometimes they are not pleasant to be told.
Yeah.
Papers and graphic and front pages like this. We hope that after this issue, publication, maybe the government will sit down with Zoom Lion. They have been doing well for this country, and therefore such an amount needs to be paid. We can go into some negotiation if you don't have the full amount to pay. You can stagger the payment, and then you pay over time. Don't need to have these airlines like that. Then the issue about the Kwakye Ofosu,
yes,
the aircraft saga. A week ago or 2, I don't know, we've been talking about missing containers yet to be accounted for. I don't know whether we have found some or not. Right after that, we also heard another issue about aircraft coming into our space. We don't know what they came to our country to do. Sometimes I want to hear some of these stories. In the news, we laugh. We joke, we talk about it, and we don't do anything. If care is not taken, one day we can have a whole president who will be captured and we don't know what to do. It's a serious issue. Containers, we don't know what happened to those containers, but if you go to the port, I can tell you the number of security operatives that we have over there today. One media outlet will pick the issue, discuss it. Another will discuss, will talk and talk. Then another issue will come. We had a breather when the 10% US came in position. So we stopped talking about it for a while. And the minister now comes, tells us that he was not invited. I think I heard him speak on some other program somewhere where he also debunked that claim that he was never invited to appear before any other committee to say his confirm or otherwise. Some issues like this, we have grown as a country to manage some of this information. If indeed we had the aircraft that came to Ghana and we have not heard anything, it shouldn't take the MP to come out to say this in public. A whole architecture, civil aviation, and nobody could, question. I don't know what happened.
While it shouldn't take the MP to come out to blow the whistle on this, do you think the approach the MP took was the best? Holding a press conference to say this rather than approaching, say, the National Investigation Bureau and saying that.
I wouldn't have heard this if you had not come out.
Yeah.
Must it be his concern? Of course, we are all in this country trying to protect our interests. But the whole aircraft lands at the airport. And we don't know what the missions were, what they came to Ghana to do. For me, we need to interrogate this further and find reasons why they came, what they came to Ghana to do.
Right.
But some of these allegations and comments, sometimes we don't have solution to those things. Today we talk about it, tomorrow another issue will come. They will leave the issue hanging. We don't have solution to some of this.
Until it pops its head again, eh? Right.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go?
I will start from where Prof ended. I believe there are remedies for sorting out these two aeroplanes. I think it was inferred that they were carrying some goods that they were not supposed to be carrying. I think the MP could have reported to the necessary authorities, written to them, sought feedback from them. Civil aviation could have written back. I know that sometimes you are not allowed to release a manifest of airlines to say who was under. But at least he being an MP, you should give him some comfort that what he was thinking is not what he was thinking. But at the same time, too, I think the MP went too far with the press conference because there are always remedies. Unless he took those remedies and he didn't get the response that he wanted. So I think he went too far with this press conference. But, well, it's already in the public domain. And the earlier GCAA and the necessary authorities come back with a response, the better. And then
you think Reverend Fordjour went too far with the press conference? Well,
because before the press conference should be based on you exhausting local remedies.
No, I just wanted to confirm what he had said.
Yes, right. Yes. The press conference would have been necessary if he had sought the local remedies and he hadn't gotten a response. But if the press conference was his first point of call, then I don't think it is.
Which is what some others have said, that if he felt he had any issues, he could have approached the relevant authorities. Exactly. But he's put it out there, and I think it's only fair that since he knows more, he should be allowed to join or aid investigations into the matter.
Exactly, because we already have so much on the airwaves which people may call questionable. And we need to be fair that as much as it is good, the saying is that when you see something, say something. However, when there is too much suspicion on the airwaves, it affects governance. You understand me? The government is not perfect, but they're trying to get somewhere. And when you throw allegations around, the ordinary man sitting in his office will not even have the motivation to work, thinking that, oh, we are breaking our backs and people are using power to do underhand deals. So I think once it's out in the public domain, let's look into it. But we shouldn't be so quick to throw things out there without doing the necessary groundwork. And also, another story that is top of my mind is the suspension of the waiver on the doctors' vehicles. We are all aware of the brain drain regarding our doctors. When they move to places like the US, they get so much more than what they get here. And those remaining here are really sacrificing. Those outside, I don't blame them. They've also done their bit. However, when you have incentives like this waiver, of course, if the waiver has been removed, there may be a reason. Maybe it was subject to abuse. It's possible somewhere over importing the vehicles and then
abusing the system.
And
then there's also that.
Yes. However, you shouldn't let all the doctors suffer for maybe the indiscretions of a few. So I think another look should be taken at it because I would say that doctors everywhere are one of the most hardworking people. I mean, they don't have working hours. They work round the clock, and whatever can be done to soften the ground for them should be done. And finally, to this EC issue, I worked for the EC for my national service in Jirapa Lambusia, Upper West Region, 2004, in an election year. And I remember that the payment then was very prompt. We had to recruit,
2000 and what?
2004.
Okay.
2004. We had to recruit some of my fellow national service personnel. I was working with the EC itself. We had to recruit people in the vicinity. And those days, there were some of the places where you have to go and do registration and other things. You cannot even access it with a car. You either walk or you take a bicycle. So I know that a lot of these temporary staff are working very hard. At that time, there was very prompt payment. But I know that now the electorate has increased, the polling stations have increased, the work is much, much more. So there may be a reason why it has delayed, but I pray that this is the last time that it will be delayed. And if anything, the money should be put aside before even the work is done. And as soon as it's done, they are paid promptly. Just
a quick bit on the tariff waivers that have been waived. So the waiver has wavered. It's been like the allowances for nurses, and it has fluctuated over time. I feel maybe there ought to be some streamlining. I do not know for certain whether past beneficiaries over time can still benefit depending on an extension of years. But for new doctors, fresh doctors, usually you would have Dr. Ikuya Mwako come here and lament about it, because there was a time where it was taken off.
Okay.
So and then I think at the tail end of the erstwhile administration, some things were done. They were not completed. And then this administration also took over. I don't think that it is wrong to say that they should be given some help because they are staying here. Let's face it, if you go out there too, it's not like life is 100% rosy. I know people who are there and there are challenges, but it's better. It's better over there. If we can incentivize them, fine. But I think maybe we should look at ensuring that it is only for new doctors who may not have the means immediately of getting access to these, not for those who have been in the system for so long, who have already maybe benefited from it once or one too many times. I think then maybe we could be getting somewhere.
Well, that's it, but I want to put out this information. If you enjoy animal protein from wildlife species, you should rejoice, because bushmeat traders, hunters have launched an association to regulate their activities. I think it's about time we do that. I love bushmeat, so yeah, you and I,
this love of bushmeat, I hope I hope this love of yours is regulated, because some of the bushmeat can take you to the bush.
We have to post tariff on this. But I was a bit worried about the earlier submission in terms of allegations. When we hear them, which authority should respond to those allegations? But going forward, we should also take a lesson out of that. When people put our information out there, it was responded by Felix. I'm sure the GCMA or the Ghana Aviation Authority, they have PROs, they should also respond to, not leave the issue to the president to respond to.
Because it affects them directly.
Yeah, so they should learn out of some of this.
True. Okay, let's do some other papers. Daily Analyst, or Benjamin, do you want to get into yours?
No, he has the news center, and I'm going to, for the first time, I'm going to do this. I want to guide you on the story to do first. Will you permit me?
That will be
AG's no-show in Lateef Idrisu assault trial raises concerns, and that is because of how long this trial has been. Since what? Was it 2017 or 2019? One? Yes. He is with us here, actually. Do you remember that incident where at the police headquarters, he was assaulted, he was hit, with the butt of a gun, his skull was fractured, and he's been in court for donkey years. So we have a personal interest in this story with Lateef Idrisu.
So honestly, I've not followed the...
Then you might want to get some of the scoop on that.
Yeah. So AGC no show on Lateef Idrisu assault trial raises concern. I don't know how many years the case have been...
It's been there for a while. I mean...
And justice delays,
6 years. 6 years plus.
Wow.
At least from...
Wow. So I think this is what we have on that. I have no idea about this issue.
Would you like to read a portion?
I think we can
just read a
go
portion.
Through the portion. On a day when the AG no-show on Lateef assault trial case raised concern, on a day when the already protracted trial involving multimedia journalist Lateef Idrisu against the Inspector General of Police, the Attorney General, was set to resume at the family court in Accra. The senior state attorney handling the case failed to appear in the court.
And that has been what has happened over the years. up until this current, this administration has also taken over, and there are calls for action to be taken. So if you look at...
He has a lawyer now?
Oh, yes, he's definitely being represented. It wasn't the first time. In fact, on April the 2nd, there had been some directive that the state prosecution should be in court to respond, and that has not happened. The very last one. So I think there's a 10-day situation, and in a brief declaration, the judge has adjourned the case to April the 7th at 10 a.m. And that is the latest on it. But like I mentioned, so yes, like I said, it goes all the way back to March 2017.
Yeah. And that's what it states.
March 2017.
Wow.
So we are seeking justice
That's
for
8
Latif.
years.
Yes.
It's a long time.
Judicial frustration.
Justice delayed.
Yeah.
Justice.
We're seeking justice for Latif.
I'm sure that the lawyer...
Wish we could have called him to tell us how he feels.
And it's had a lasting impact on him.
Yeah.
I mean, we who work with him know of some of them. There was a time where, if you look at the picture, you would see some of the things that sometimes he has on his head attached, just to... You may not realize it, but a fractured skull is no joke.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're seeking justice for him, and we hope the right things are done, at least as a new AG is in post. Right.
Well,
so
sure.
Thanks for allowing me to push
because
you.
I had not followed this story for a long time. Yeah. And then we have Blewit, the multi-faceted MT and CEO. That's what we have on the news center. Then there's something on the banking, on the future, how EcoBank is empowering Ghanaian youth. And there's one that I'm also interested in, BOJ policy rate hike, MPC 3-2 votes and reasons. It's interesting. This is the first time I've heard this decision out there. The MPC is a monetary policy committee. I don't know whether it used to be 7, but now we hear it's 5-member committee. When they sit and they want to take decision about the policy rate, they take a lot of things into consideration. The GDP, the inflation, the external sector relations and all that. Then they can confirm, do we maintain the same rate based on the figures that we have put out there, or do we increase or do we reduce? And remember, the policy rate guides the treasury bill rate. Sometimes when we are taking the decision on it, we have to be careful. But this is the first time decisions of the committee is out there. That now we can tell member A or member 1 voted
this way.
Member B voted the other way.
Is that good or bad? Okay.
Yeah,
right.
sorry.
This is my first time.
Yeah.
Transparency is key. It's important. Even judges, their decisions are. You remember Jay dissenting and all those.
Yeah.
This is the first time, and I have no qualms. I don't have problem about it. If it's a policy that they follow, that now decisions of the committee should be out there, that is fine. Of course, now I can read and know that member 5, according to the story, member 5 said we should maintain 27. We should not increase it to 28.
Okay.
But strictly from the monetary or the policy angle, from where you sit, is this transparency needed? Is it a good thing?
Well, anything that, if I can get information to do what I want to do as a researcher, I will welcome it. I don't have a problem with this. If it's a policy by the administration, by the BOJ, to let the information be out there, that is fine. But the problem I have is that once we get to know those members, and all the time they are voting no, what will happen?
The public will scrutinize.
Yeah. Who is that person always voting no? And who is always saying let's maintain? We'll investigate and find out.
I'm sure they will mix it up. And
for me, if you tell us it's increased from 27 to 28, so be it. It's fine. Let's see the implication about the increment. For now.
Perhaps this only feeds into this administration. They came on the back of transparency, accountability, jobs. So perhaps this feeds into the transparent.
Prof, do you know any of these members?
I don't know. They use numbers. Number 5. Now we have number 4. I was doing the calculation. Number 5 said we should maintain. Out of the 5, I think 4 said we should increase to 28%. And truth be told, in Africa, we have the highest MPC, the rate. But the other leg is that Treasury bill rates have gone down.
Which some say is being artificially manipulated.
And
the IEA boss has said that, I mean, it may be artificial, but there could be, repercussions on the...
I was forced to write an article on this, that there should be
the central bank's end.
Yeah, enhanced relationship between BOG and Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance are there to give us, they always, they play the game together in terms of who auctions and who determines the quantity and the prices. Minister of Finance determine the quantity of treasury bill that must be issued and the prices that must be out to be set. Then the BOG also will auction, will be in charge to auction. So that's where they come together. But in terms of rules, they are far, they play the different rules. We should be careful that we don't continue on this path because we expect the monetary policy to guide the Treasury bill. Treasury bill now is from 29, it's now 15%. What it means is that policy rate, you try to mop up or contractionary measures to reduce excess liquidity in the system. But what you are doing, on the other hand, you are leaving a lot of funds into the system. So one try to contract, then one try to expand.
So there are different impacts, isn't it? When you look at the fiscal end and the monetary end, it would work in the favor of the finance ministry and its work, right? But for the central bank, it may not exactly be in favor of.
That's why there should be some, that relationship must be established because they all have, for instance, if you increase monetary policy, what are you trying to do? Your spending will reduce. You also have cost of borrowing will be high. My challenge has always been the startup businesses. They thrive on debt, they try to borrow. If they go to the bank to go and borrow funds to expand their product, their businesses, they'll pass on the cost to you and I, and we'll pay. So I don't know when you're going to be a member, and then your decision will be known here.
Okay, just a quick add up. So how will this affect people purchasing bonds versus treasury bills, for example?
Yeah, so now people now look for a safe haven. Because if you give treasury bill rates are dropping, what it means is that if you want to now put your money into the short-term investment, you get lower.
And bonds tend to be long-term.
Yeah, beyond 1 year. All right. So if I now go and put my money into a short-term investment, I'm getting a lower rate, means that my yield or my profits will be reduced.
Or people will not be attracted to go to the funds.
So they have to now find out that either they keep the money
and all of that.
Yes, they keep the money, or they look for other investment and put their money in.
Okay. Other stories you'd like to do from the paper?
Well, I think that's the only one that I have for now. There's Access Bank, which injected 300,000 in women preneur pitch ton. And then we have GMA, the same story, furious over suspension of duty waiver on vehicles. Okay. And the last one is the CEO of MTN I talked about.
All right. The Daily Analyst then.
So we have no safe haven for illegal miners. This is a story
Ecological terrorists.
It's a story I've been following closely.
Yeah.
And initially when I heard they had been declared terrorists, I thought maybe an act had been amended. You know the way the United States can declare any organization as a terrorist organization and then treat them accordingly. But I mean, to me, I also see them as terrorists because apparently you even have a lot of people from the sub-region who are armed, who are engaging in illegal mining. I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. This is more or less occupation. You can say it's a form of occupation by conquest. People who are not indigenous moving in with arms. We all know the terrorist issues that we have in the sub-region at the moment. And I think in the past, one MP spoke of a certain issue, and he recommended shooting to kill.
Right.
And I was one of those who opposed what he said. But this illegal mining issue has reached such a stage.
That you've changed your mind?
I wouldn't say shoot to kill per se, but I think whichever sentencing regime is there should be more stringent, because you know that when we have these rebel groups, these terrorists, they finance themselves through the sale of these minerals. So we actually have a security issue on our hands. Galamsey is now graduating from an environmental issue into a security issue. And I like the approach of the minister. Just that the figures he was putting out there, he said between 80 and 90%. I mean, 80 and 90%, that's 10%. That's huge. I mean, you should have some statistics to back it. You shouldn't just... I was very encouraged with the speech, but I think it's becoming something else. And I heard that this gold board that has come out will be a way to regulate it. So I think the current government...
That might actually make it worse. Because when you are regulating the sale of gold in the country with stringent, you're very strict with it, people will be more innovative in terms of how they can evade your systems, how they can still smuggle gold outside the country and make profits for themselves. But we all look forward to see how the implementation goes on that.
And then we also have GJA present to attend the elite jamboree in Dubai. When I saw this story, the issue of Mr. Asarbediako's arrest came to mind. Well, I am not a journalist. I believe the journalists, they have their ways of operation. I'm sure things are going on behind the scenes to address the arrest of, I think there was also Okoteshe Ifrifa, the arrest of journalists. And good luck to him on the jamboree, but I would wish to hear his voice more on these arrests. And I don't know him personally, but I think one of your panelists used to be GJA president, Mr. Afromoni. And I used to hear his voice a lot.
But I thought he was actually vocal. He's the one that started asking for justice for the journalists who, were murdered, I should say. And on the issue of these arrests, these individuals were picked up because of things they said, right? So these investigative bodies are only doing their job. I don't think it reaches the point yet. It has reached the point yet where the GJA president should make a statement, unless they're doing something untoward is happening to them. But the man is not in custody; he's been released as we speak.
But what was his
on 5 million
misinformation and
5 million cedis bail?
Gordon Asari, what was his crime? What was the
Asarbediako? Anyway,
for me, it was trivia issues.
Anyway,
we are following. We also have Parliament grants request for 2 MPs to appear before NIB.
Why are they telling us a story without telling us why they are being, hauled before the committee?
I do have my suspicion. These MPs.
Daughter of the widow comment or Medra comment.
Oh, I follow A Plus is one of the people in society that I really admire. I follow him closely on Facebook and other things, and I was also following his campaign, and I think. He's a voice for the voiceless. But I don't know exactly what it is, but I can say on authority that sometime last year or so, he stated that he knows something about the killers of Ahmed Swale. I think
he's made some comments.
He said within
some
48
people
hours,
have suggested that he should come in. The same way some people feel if Reverend Fordjour knows some things about this development, come and give us the information so that we can work with it.
Exactly. I think he said you bring it out within 48 hours. I follow him on social media. So I don't know if this is related, but, well, I suppose with time, nowadays in Ghana, nothing is hidden for long. I'm sure we will know. And then we have 57% of NPP supporters prefer Bawumia, and Global Info Analytics, and 68% of voters blame Akufo-Addo for NPP's election defeat. Well, Global Info Analytics is one poll that I really respect. So if this is what they are saying, then I suppose that it may be quite accurate. And we have Kempinski launches 10th anniversary. Congratulations to them. I think they're one of the hotels that have managed to maintain their standards throughout. And then we have Syria condemns unjustified Israeli tensions rise over Turkey. And then Hungary withdraws from International Criminal Court during Netanyahu visit. So we also have a lot happening on the international scene. And I think Ghana is also, I mean, as a respected voice, especially with our current vibrant Minister of Foreign Affairs, I'm sure we are taking all these things into cognizance, what is happening all over. I mean, there are conflicts all over. Now, you even have US and EU at each other's throats with this tariff wars. In the CPP era, First Republic era, I remember Ghana had a non-aligned stance. I hope that we'll maintain that non-aligned stance and then speak out where we need to. And I'd like to land with a very good story about Honorable Shirley Ayokobotre becoming the first ever African female head of the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
That's definitely one to celebrate.
Yes.
Officially, she's taken over now.
That is very, very well deserved, and I'm proud of her, and I know that she'll do a good job.
Congratulations to her. But just for context, Prof, this man was, Asari Bediako, is said to have alleged that the special prosecutor, Kisi Ajobin, asked the former Akufo-Addo administration for a private jet for his own use. That was the allegation that he was making. And so they picked him up for inquiry, investigations, and they let him go.
That's fine. I mean, when someone says something against an administration or institution, I'm sure the manner in which we invite them, operationalization of their arrest, should be done in a nice way that we will not sit here and be talking about it. If I say something contrary to what everybody expects, and then you want to call me, I think we should also have better way of inviting people so it doesn't become a public information out there. We spent
I think sometimes it's a way of deterring other people from doing same because of the rise of misinformation and disinformation. It almost falls on these security officers or institutions to ensure that they are doing things that deters other people from following the same.
But when he was arrested, I mean, it was picked up. It became, within 1 hour or so, the whole media space.
Because he's here in the media space.
Well, but we have to be decorous in terms of the way we invite them.
But what has he been charged with?
So the allegations he was making, but they've granted him bail.
He's granted bail in the sum of 5 million cedis to
appear today.
Morning.
Yeah.
But exactly what is the charge?
It doesn't say. Just said he was picked up because of the things he was saying and he's been granted bail. Doesn't say. Yeah.
But truth be told, there are a lot of major issues in the country that we have to this approach. We can apply the same thing so that we get the same results.
We have about 4 minutes to go.
Well, we have a bit more time to work with. We're going all the way till about 50. So are you done with your paper?
Yes, I think these happen to be the news that I have here. Assemblies of God. I need to talk about this.
It is Assemblies of God. Okay, you go ahead.
That's my church, so.
Go ahead.
So that's the church.
I can tell. You didn't react to that.
That's the president's church too.
Oh, yeah, yes. So,
and a former Chief Justice.
At least I have a president in my church. That's good. Assemblies of God reaffirms calls to ceaseless prayer at the 7th Regional Council meeting. Prayer is good. We need to pray for the country. And that's why the head of the church, Reverend Stephen Wingham, calls for. Ghana Evangelical Mission Association unveils 7-year strategy plan. Very good idea. These are the few headlines that I have here. There's something on IGPC Council with former IGPs. Interesting story. Yeah. IGPC Council for former IGP. Was The SWAL IGP there.
I just knew you.
No,
would
I was
go
also
there.
looking out.
I just knew you would go there
No,
because yesterday on a certain security platform, I saw a conversation about people saying that Dampare hadn't been invited and all of that. Others saying that if such things were being organized, there were certain procedures to follow, processes and all of that. I don't know the full details of it, whether he was there or not. But I think if this bit about seeking the ideas, the thoughts of others who have been there before is a very positive, step, and I think it's great. I mean, with the transition from this to that, I know there may be some issues because Yono had been there for a while. It was, if you look at seniority, who should have been there before, it's kind of like with the judges, okay? Yeah. But this move is a good move. Mm-hmm. Whether Dampare was there or not, that one I'll leave it to the police service to deal with its own situation.
Well, it's a question that I asked.
Well, I didn't see him. I didn't see him. Maybe he was, because I watched it on.
If you didn't see him,
was he also invited?
Because the TV cameras
that's
may
the
not have
question, right?
captured
Was he
him.
also invited?
That's the question. Was he
He's not in the
invited?
picture. Well,
That was what I.
The man just retired. He's probably vacationing somewhere.
But this is the time they need your advice. They need
so
your
he may be on leave.
He's probably just taking some time away from all the noise. But another question you asked, I found the information. So he was charged with two charges: false publication and false communication, and that's why they picked him up. Yeah, okay. 2 counts of false publication and false communication. Those are the charges.
And false communication.
Because he was on air saying these things about the OSP.
Well, that's interesting. Because if I need to take a closer look at that law. I mean, I don't remember coming across it in my practice. But if we still have something like that on the books, then that means that we haven't totally done away with the criminal libel law. And if there's something like that, I think we need to expunge it. Because a publication or a communication which does not augur well with anybody should fall within the remit of defamation. Otherwise, if it becomes a criminal act, then we may be going back to the criminal libel law days. But anyway, I'll take a closer look.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's
your interest in it as a lawyer, so yeah.
Oh, yes.
I don't think that's a place we'll get back to. I mean, where we've got to now.
Yeah.
It's way gone. But let me get into the Daily Graphic newspaper. GRA assures refund of e-levy deductions after abolition. And as of yesterday, I checked in with some people who transacted, and they said there were no. Someone sent me screenshots, 00 e-levy, 0000. But on April the 2nd, some people, I think I even transacted on April the 2nd, and there were deductions. So yesterday was the 3rd, right? But on the 2nd, after it had taken effect, the directive was that there should be a refund. So that's what this story is talking about. And we'll see how that refund will. I think in the past, there have been some. When the e-levy itself, at a point, there were some reductions and all of that. There were instances of having to refund, and it became pretty interesting. I wait to see how this time it will be handled. Private participation in ECG. Technical committee recommends 3 models. I'll quickly get into those models and then bring in a related comment from the former ECG boss, Dubik Mahama, and what he's been saying about the missing containers. So the end of the era of the e-levy, that story is there. But let me get to the ECG one. So the technical committee tasked to advise on modalities for private sector participation in the distribution of electricity has recommended 3 models to inform the government's decision on the effective implementation of the strategy. Now, the proposed models are entity concession, involving giving the entire distribution to a private concessioner. Multiple lease, involving dividing the distribution into service parts, with each of them given to different private partners. And a service franchise, involving a private partner given the mandate to transfer the distribution services from sources to homes. I'll just repeat that because that's the only, so we all get it clearly. The proposed models are entity concession, involving giving the entire distribution to a private concessioner. 1. The second, multiple lease involving dividing the distribution into service parts, so multiple leases, with each of them given to different private partners. And then a service franchise involving a private partner given the mandate to transfer the distribution services from source to homes. And now I hear about 8 proposals came to the fore, and then they whittled it down to these 3. If you remember the PDS incident, you would have an idea of one of those models that was attempted to be used. And receiving the report, the minister reiterated that the government would not sell any asset of ECG to a private entity, adding that in all of this, you realize that there are no talks about the outright sale of ECG assets. They, that is ECG, will remain the asset owner. Going forward, the minister said his office would present a proposition paper to cabinet, and then a project implementation committee coupled with transaction advisors will be composed for a full rollout of the strategy using the best option. I'll start with you, Kwame Nkrumah.
I think I support the second option, where different aspects will be given to
different
players. Because, and I hope there will be local players.
So speaking of some of the different aspects, you could be looking at metering.
Yes.
For example.
Yes.
You could be looking at, I mean, different components in the chain.
Yes.
And different entities.
I support that one. And I hope there will be maybe most or all should be local players. It gives us the ability to grow our own ability to deal with these things, because PDS, I think, will fall under the first category. And PDS, I think their collapse came with some legal issues. I don't think it had to do specifically with their ability to carry out the job. However, I do not think that giving a monopoly to any agency is good for us, because with the PDS issue, because it was a monopoly, there are all kinds of things against them. However, having the second model, I think it will be good for us, because if you look at a lot of our sectors, even with Ghana Telecom, I think we had to bring some people from Malaysia before. I think when it was PNT, then Ghana Telecom, we had people from Malaysia, and then Vodafone, which is I think a Dutch company. PDS too, I think, was from the Philippines, or I've forgotten. It was also foreign. So this second model will be good. I support the second.
What's your take on that, Prof?
Well, I didn't. There were some aspect that you read. That the government now, the committee report tells us there won't be any privatization. Is that what?
What they are saying is, in all of this, you realize that there are no talks about the outright sale of ECG assets. There's not going to be a sale of assets, which means then that ECG will maintain a certain predominance. They will remain the asset owner.
Asset owner.
Exactly.
In fact, when this administration assumed office or took over, my initial inclination was that some of the assets, some of the state's own enterprises will be privatized. But going by this report, if there's that assurance, is good for me at this stage. I will look at the models later on. But the GRA, we can come to the GRA later. It's fine.
All right. The related angle I wanted to look at when it comes to ECG, in respect of the missing containers, there's been talk from Samuel Dubik Mahama. Let me just get to what he had to share, because he has said that, and he's also open to investigations, but he said that the ECG containers went missing but auctioned by the GRA over unpaid duties. And there are some questions in there. He says the containers went missing but auctioned by the GRA or unpaid duties. So the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has been brought into the fray. The former boss said there's no way these containers could have been taken out without it being through the right processes. The GRA has also spoken on the matter, and now we hear this as well. I don't know what your take is. Since it's related to ECG, I just wanted to bring it in before we...
Because I'm looking at the way forward. We've been talking about this missing containers for almost like 2 weeks now. We have no idea what is happening. But there's one thing to talk about issues and don't give reasons and solutions. What are we going to do going forward? If the committee report tells us this is what we should do, we go by what they are saying. And then we'll look out for a proper solution to this problem. Because my earlier submission, I said, if we keep having some of these stories and we don't do anything about it, tomorrow, we don't know what will happen. You'll be walking and you'll be picked up, and no one seems to be bothered about what is going on. So, yes, good report, but how are you going to implement the report?
Okay. Anyway, I see Samu Kujetua Blakwa throwing some shots on his X page, but I'll leave that. Anyway, I'll leave that there. Let me get into other stories.
Oh, you can't just tease us like that.
No. Okay, so you know when Reverend Ntim Fordjour, had his presser, some people alleged that it was an attempt to be like, and I see the Foreign Affairs Minister post something about he's been seeing Temu Ablakwa, Tulaku Ablakwa, just some shots being fired, and I'm wondering. Anyway, it is what it is. We'll leave the politicians to do what politicians do. The GRA story. Well, that's what I got into basically. So they are saying that it's been taken off, and there will be refunds at least of the deductions that were made from the second. We'll deal with Galamsey ruthlessly. We've already delved into that. The government is open to deploying any option that will prove most effective for clamping down on illegal mining activities. But for many groups, the call is still for LI 2462 to be revoked in its entirety. However, it's emerging that some aspects of it may not have been so transparent, or I think there was a claim that was made. Was it yesterday? I just forget, about some big mining entities, like is it Newmont, for example, already having licenses in some of these forest reserves, and what a revocation would mean. But of course, we all know that any law can't be, what do you call it? What's the term?
Repealed?
No, it can't apply retrospectively. You get it. So it can only apply in the future. So still, the call is there. LI 2462. Should we amend? Should we revoke? That is the bit in there. Chief of Staff, Finance Chiefs discuss innovative financing models. But let me also do these international stories. Interesting. Trump tariffs pile stress on ailing world economy. We've spoken about it, but what exactly are some of the details? The latest round of U.S. trade tariffs unveiled on Wednesday will sap yet more vigor from a world economy barely recovered from the post-pandemic inflation surge, weighed down by record debt and unnerved by geopolitical strife. Depending on how President Donald Trump and leaders of other nations proceed now, it may also go down as a turning point for globalized systems that until now had taken for granted the strength and reliability of America, its largest component. So Trump's tariffs carry the risk of destroying the global free trade order the United States itself has spearheaded since the Second World War, said Takahide Kyuchi, executive economist at Nomura Research Institute. And this is the call that I've been making, that inadvertently, the U.S. could end up sabotaging what it has itself helped create. And it could sabotage its own economy in different ways. I mean, you may look at it and say, oh, the economy is so strong and this and that. Trust me, there's no economy beyond going bust. And we saw that, was it in 2008 with the global credit crisis and the credit crunch and everything that happened. The U.S. was one of the biggest sufferers of that. Look at the companies that had to be bailed out. So all I'm saying is they can go on this trajectory, but I also see that it won't be all rosy for this campaign. You have a different opinion.
They have done a lot of assessment. This is not the first time we've seen Trump do this.
Plus, Trump is Trump.
When he came the first time, he implemented a lot of these initiatives.
It's a very good point you make. And saying.
The U.S. at that point, I mean, you could see that.
No, but in terms of their economy, saying, what was the impact on their economy?
Did you check the numbers of the U.S. economy under Trump?
Actually, if you look at and that's one thing that sometimes I guess Americans themselves may not. If you look at the metrics of the economy under Trump and the metrics of the economy under Biden at the time when, even though it had been lampooned and all of that, at the time when Biden was leaving, were there any real differences? If you looked at real GDP, if you looked at inflation, if you looked at, actually, there were practically no differences. But it was just the feeling that, oh, I'm not feeling a certain way that maybe I could buy this in the past. Tell me.
As a Ghanaian, I am worried about the tariffs, the position. But look, Trump is Trump. He's a businessman.
This wouldn't
and he knows what he's doing.
Impulse.
You have
a lot of thoughts.
Do you have an idea how?
Oh, when it comes to Trump, there will be a lot of impulse.
How they calculated the 10% tariffs. It's not just coming out to say the figures. They use a matrix to calculate. That was what they were able to tell that South Africa will pay, I think, 50%, and other countries will pay.
I mean,
they use a trade surplus.
It's not to say there will be a lot of looking into this too. But I'm saying that if it is such a wide deviation from what the erstwhile administration has done, or what even in the last 20 years, apart from Trump 1 and Trump 2, has been done, it should tell you something. That's all I'm saying. And on the back of that, China urges U.S. to immediately lift tariffs, vows retaliation. And China on Thursday urged the United States to immediately cancel its latest tariffs and vowed countermeasures to safeguard its interests after President Donald Trump declared sweeping levies on U.S. trading partners around the world. I mean, it is what it is. You look at what is happening with Tesla, for example, and even, BYD was going to set up in Mexico. They decided not to do that for certain reasons and all of that. Tesla is suffering in the US because of opposition. In Canada, and obviously in China, BYD is already. So you look at all of these dynamics and you say the US is the juggernaut it is, but I keep saying, we'll come back to this someday. Now, maybe my final story on page 11. Society of AIDS calls for domestic funding across Africa, and this also relates to being self-sufficient. The president of the Society of AIDS in Africa, and ICASA 2025 president, Dr. David Parirenyatwa, has called on Africans and the diaspora to rise to the challenge of strengthening health systems with accountability, transparency, and universal access to care. He warned that without innovative approaches to sustainability and domestic financing, Africa risked regressing to the dark days of the 1980s and 1990s, when many died from AIDS due to a lack of medicine, which also reflects some growing at home so that you are not so dependent. Look at COVID-19. And again, my apologies to all sensibilities, but I love Madam Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. But recently, with a medical, issue, when interventions were needed, the UGMC, fantastic institution, they had to come in. But eventually, we still had to
fly out. Exactly.
Yeah. So if something happens, God forbid, and you can't take someone out of the country for some reason, what happens to us?
Yeah.
And for those of us who, if we have issues, you will not necessarily have the largest to fly outside that quickly. What happens to you?
Yeah.
So these issues, Charlie, I always say that, be small matter.
Something came to mind. La Hosolo.
Yes. So those are the stories I wanted to look at.
Yeah. And I mean, to add, even our dear departed former minister.
Is it
John Kuma?
Oh, okay. I even thought you were referring to...
Even he, I think, apparently from the reports I saw, they tried to repatriate him from Kumasi to Accra.
Yes.
So that means locally, it's as if Accra is a be-all and end-all. And if all fails in Accra, then you have flown out. So we seem to be living under the illusion that with our big hospitals, our fancy-looking hospitals, we have it all set. But there's work to be done. And I believe we can do it. We have the local wherewithal. Yeah.
The name that actually came to mind was PV Obeng. But his instance was a bit different, because I hear the vehicle thing and having the inhaler and all that.
And even there was a former minister too who had the same situation, also with an inhaler, somewhere in the early 2000s, somewhere in the north. I've forgotten his name, one of the NDC ministers.
We can also look at our former vice president, Emisa Arthur, and even our former president and all the dynamics in there. I'm talking about John Evans Atta Mills. Final words?
Well, GRA should be careful about how the refund, how they implement it.
Okay.
When and how, And we also need to be careful how they do it, because if they don't do it well, it becomes another problem for this administration. A refund. It's not the first time hearing that GRA would do a refund for those who have to be paid. They should do it quick. They have to do that. They have to. And then the government must also let us know how it's going to take care of this fund, the revenue that is going to give out to people. Because if you don't have good source of revenue to the state, and now you have to let some of them go. And that's what we have been told. Administration takes over. It tells us that, well, he's going to reduce, abolish some of the nuisance taxes, and now takes off. This is the first, I think he did about e-levy, and then
missions, betting and all that. And now he signed. I'm sure he signed those. He has signed.
So, but then if you flip the coin, how is he going to get funds to show up to undertake the expenditures?
All right.
Should be clear.
Well, sweetie, I guess we can draw the curtains on the conversation.
That's it for the news review. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Those who joined us, Professor Isaac Boedi, he's Dean Accounting and Finance at UPSA. And we have Osajifo Kwame Nkrumah Butsio, he's General Secretary of the CPP. Stay, because there's so much more coming your way. The Friday edition of the AM show. Benjamin will serve his blunt thoughts. We have E-Corner and our big story where we are looking into the latest info analytics report or survey and the things that it's saying. Please stay. We'll be right back.